Hi, I'm Tracy Gardner. I teach technical writing in the Technical and Scientific Communication program at Virginia Tech. My presentation is titled Role-Playing with AI, Simulating Real-World Writing Challenges Across the Disciplines. You can use the QR code on this title slide to access all the resources for the presentation. Or type in the URL hoki.es/IWAC 2025. The transcript is in the speaker notes for each slide and is available as a separate Google Doc. There is also a handout with 6 role-playing scenarios and AI prompts. I plan to add more scenarios in the coming weeks. Most of the slides in this presentation present text taken from the transcript. There are some decorative illustration in the form of icons from the MOUNT project. I'll describe them as we encounter them. In this presentation, I'll talk about how AI-powered role-play scenarios can help students develop writing skills in dynamic, low-stakes ways. Whether they're in middle school, high school, college, or technical training programs, students can benefit from simulated writing tasks that mirror real-world challenges and audience expectations. Role-play on its own is already a powerful tool in writing instruction. All writing is essentially an exercise in role-play. Let me explain what I mean. Every time we write, we take on a game of role-play. The writer, represented by the image of a scroll of paper with a pencil and a dramatic mask, assumes a specific role and defines the role of the audience, represented by the image of 3 people whose thoughts hover in a speech bubble showing 2 dramatic masks. Their interaction, the purpose and context of the communication project, represented by the image of a web layout with 2 dramatic masks, is the play that happens as the author approaches and works within those roles. Role-play asks students to write with an audience and purpose in mind when they take on roles like engineers pitching proposals or journalists conducting interviews. Students experience what it's like to write in real-world situations. This kind of scenario-based learning helps students practice adjusting their tone, structure, and content depending on whom they're writing for. When we add AI to the mix, role-play can become scalable and personalized. The image of the writer and the purpose and context remain the same on this slide. The image of the audience is transformed to a computer monitor, showing AI output and a speech bubble with 2 dramatic masks, representing AI as audience. Instead of needing classmates or instructors to simulate every role, students can engage directly with the chatbot acting as a manager, a client, or a patient. Role-play with AI is an excellent tool for situations where scheduling conflicts, varying learning styles, or self-paced progress make pairing students for role-play challenging. Students don't have to wait on others or work in sync. They can engage at their own pace. AI partners make it possible to explore writing situations anytime, even when classmates aren't available or aren't ready to collaborate. AI responds to their writing with dynamic feedback, posing questions or expressing concerns in the character of their audience. This capability makes role-play feel more authentic and flexible. Students can repeat instructions, explore different strategies and scenarios, and revise based on what they encounter. Role-play becomes a way to experiment with tone, clarity, and audience responsiveness, and it works across the disciplines. These role-play scenarios are designed to address the following learning objectives. Adapt writing for diverse audiences and contexts, represented by the image of multicolored people in a group. Students will tailor their tone, structure, and content based on the specific roles and rhetorical situations they encounter. Next, engage in critical thinking to evaluate and revise writing choices, represented by the image of a glowing light bulb with a brain image inside. Students will use AI-generated feedback to examine their assumptions and refine their messages. Third, practice authentic communication, represented by the image of 2 intersecting speech bubbles. Students will practice using appropriate formats, styles, and conventions for different professional audiences, settings, and situations. And finally, apply problem-solving strategies to their writing, represented by interlocking machinery gears. When AI responses challenge their ideas or ask for clarification, students will identify ways they need to revise their message. These objectives support students in developing flexible, transferable writing skills essential for real-world communication. I set up role-play activities within a 5-part structure. First, students get a scenario briefing that introduces the situation, their role, and the audience expectations. Then, they prepare for their chatbot role-play by writing a text or researching their scenario, or perhaps both. Next, they interact with the AI, submitting their writing and responding to questions or critiques. After that, they reflect on what the AI challenged and how they adapted their communication as a result. And finally, they revise based on their reflections and their interaction with the chatbots. This 5-part cycle emphasizes learning by doing, followed by reflection. It's where students see how their writing choices affect reception and how they can revise to meet real-world needs. On the handout for this session, I outline a number of scenarios and related prompts that students can paste into the chatbot they are using. You can adapt these materials as you like to use in your classes. There are 2 groups of scenarios. Scenarios for college students, represented by the office desk, complete with a stack of work, computer monitor, and a cup of coffee, focus primarily on major or disciplinary-based situations that students may encounter in the workplace. Their role is to work within career fields or areas examined in their classes that they are taking. Second, scenarios for middle or high school students, represented by a school desk, focus on local situations that students are likely to encounter, whether school or community-based. While I have arranged these resources based on the situations I tend to encounter in these different teaching contexts, any of the materials can be adapted or used as is for most writing across the curriculum classes, regardless of the level. Let's look at an example. I would use with college students who are taking a technical writing course. These students are in STEM majors at a 4-year university. They are typically juniors and seniors. The example is an engineering project proposal review. In this scenario, students assume the role of engineers tasked with preparing a proposal for a sustainable energy solution. They submit the proposal to an AI chatbot, which takes on the role of various stakeholders such as environmental consultants, project managers, and budget analysts. Each stakeholder provides feedback that challenges students' assumptions or technical language. By engaging with AI feedback that questions the proposal's feasibility, budget justification, or environmental impact, students practice refining their content for clarity and persuasiveness. This is the chatbot prompt students would use with this scenario. I would ask students to copy this prompt and paste it into the chat. I'm an engineer submitting a proposal for a sustainable energy solution. I'd like you to act as a panel of stakeholders responding to my proposal, which I will upload as an attachment. Please identify which stakeholder role you are playing, such as an environmental consultant, a project manager, or a budget analyst, each time you ask a question or offer feedback. Your feedback should challenge my assumptions, question my technical language, or raise concerns about feasibility, budget, or environmental impact. Your goal is to help me revise my proposal to make it clearer, more persuasive, and more realistic for my audience. These same strategies work well with middle and high school students. Here's an example that could be used in any course by adjusting the kind of service project or the goal of the project to fit local conditions. This is a community service project proposal for student council. In this example, a student represents the school's student council, pitching a service project to a school administrator played by the AI. The AI administrator might ask, "How will you recruit volunteers?" or "What's the timeline for success?" These questions prompt students to think through their ideas in more detail. They also learn how to frame their communication for a decision maker. The scenario encourages persuasive writing, clear organization, and concrete details. And when students reflect afterward, they often realize how their tone, language, or structure influenced the outcome. Here's the chatbot prompt students would use with this scenario. I represent the student council and am proposing a community service project. and there's a space here where they would insert a 3 or 4 word description of their project. I will upload a draft of my proposal for you to read. Please start the conversation by greeting me as the school administrator and then asking a question about the proposal's goals, logistics, or potential impact. As we talk, give me feedback that helps me clarify my ideas and make the proposal more persuasive and realistic. If you look at the handout, you'll also notice that there are some additional instructions for students that I would provide. In this case, it's to define what an example project is. Example projects are a food or clothing drive, a tutoring program, a recycling campaign, or a fundraiser for a local charity. You're free to choose whatever project we could do here at, and then I would insert the name of my school or the class. Let me return briefly to the implementation structure for these activities. After using these prompts, students have completed the first 3 steps of the structure. They were briefed on the role-playing scenario, prepared for their interaction with the bot, and then engaged in role-play with the chatbot. The power of this role-play approach applies in what happens next, in how students apply the role-play interaction to their writing project. They reflect and revise, addressing questions like these. What did the chatbot push back on? What did the AI not understand about your goals or audience? What did the AI say that you questioned as incorrect? What surprised or challenged you in the chatbot's output? What AI feedback will you act on, and why? Each of these questions asks students to identify ways that they can fine-tune or rethink their message based on how their AI audience reacted to their ideas. To close, here are 3 things I hope you'll take away. First, role-playing helps students practice writing with a semi-authentic audience. Second, AI allows us to scale their experience, making individual feedback and engagement possible, even in large or asynchronous classes. And third, when used thoughtfully, AI role-play scenarios offer a low-stakes way to build writing skills, especially adaptability, critical thinking, authentic communication, and problem-solving. I believe this approach prepares students not just for school writing, but for the real-world challenges they'll face in jobs, civic life, and beyond. The QR code on this final page and the link on this slide will take you to the resources from this presentation. Again, the link is hoki.es/IWAC 2025. You can contact me at tengrl, TENGRRL, @vt.edu. Thank you for listening to my presentation.